Are interrogating the bid by Professor James Ole Kiyapi for the top job in this country. He is with me this morning, and that is our question of the day right here. Does James Ole Kiyapi have what it takes to lead the country? Can he take this country forward? Can he steer it to prosperity and success? You tell me. SMS me on 8040 with your thoughts. You can also catch us on Twitter. That's at KTN Kenya. You can tweet me at Yvonne Okwara as well. And let's take this discussion forward. Thank you very much, Prof.
Hi,
for coming in.
Yvonne.
Karibu to Sunrise Live.
Asante.
Been a busy man lately.
Yes, very, very busy. I mean, it's campaign period, and I'm very grateful that I can have this opportunity to talk to the Kenyan people.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So everybody asks, the first question is, you had an illustrious career in the government, been a PS in 3 ministries. Why would you quit that job to run for the top office in this country?
Because Kenya is asking for leaders. Kenya has been demanding leaders for many years now. There comes a time in the life of a nation when we can't sit back as fellow citizens, as in, you know, regardless of where we come from, we need to look at where Kenya is today. We know we've done some good work, we have established certain foundations, but where we are now, we really need competent, passionate, and patriotic leaders who are focused and who are willing and ready to come out and sacrifice. It's not so much about going to get a big job, because yes, in my case, I already had a big job. It's not just going to, you know, like to get the power. It is really getting servant leaders, people who will come down to where the people are. And so for me, it's a call, it is a conviction, it is a rising for the nation. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm more qualified than everybody else or somebody else is more qualified. It's simply that it's a citizen duty that we must give the best to our country. And I think that Kenya has what it takes in terms of human resource, in terms of natural resources, in terms of everything. I keep saying it's like we are a plane, it's on the runoff, you know, full of people, everything packed, and we are taking off. We cannot abort the takeoff. And for me, therefore, I felt very strongly, having been in government and having seen what was going on. And these political leaders actually who are telling Kenyans that they want to go back, they're going to change things. The question I want to ask them, many of them have been in government. Whether you are in parliament, you are in government. Whether you are a minister, you are in government. Or prime minister, you are in government. Many of these people have been in power since 1992. What is it that they have not done up to now? What is new? What's the new thing that they want to do now? Because every time they tell us, when we go in, we're going to change things. Why have they not changed for all this time? And why are they not changing now? Why have we had so many scandals in Kenya? In some of the ministries that these same very people were leading. So for me, Kenya has been held hostage by poor leadership. And it is time that we come out and give our country the best. It's like when you go to the army, don't put the best generals behind, put them in front to help the country. All
right, okay. Let's talk about your tenure in government as well.
Yeah.
Served in various ministries, of course, at the end, was within the education ministry. Some people say, well, you're too much of a technocrat to be able to get into politics, and politics, you know, requires, some say it's a dirty game. What do you think that tenure within government has done for you, and what can you say were the highlights of your time as PS in the various ministries that then makes you the right person for president?
First of all, in government, I learned how government works. If really you want to understand what goes on in Kenya, it is the permanent secretaries that really run ministries. They are the managers. They are the CEOs of ministries. And in fact, among the presidential candidates, I'm the only one who has actually managed huge budgets, like in education, 140 billion, in health, about 30-something billion, in environment, about 5-6 billion. Now, all of that, because government is not just really orders and directives. Government is a system. It is structures. The public service is what really drives the economy of Kenya, as in how we facilitate the private sector or hinder it. If the public service is moving and is proactive, then you open up space for the private sector. And if you do that, things move forward. So while I was in government, I tried always, whichever ministry I was, to try and make a difference and bring about reforms. When I was, for example, in environment, we streamlined. I'm the one who introduced a completely new directorate in the Ministry of Environment. It didn't exist. And I went, and within 1 year, I created it. The Kenya Forest Service. And we streamlined the cleaning up of Nairobi River. I was the one behind it. This Mao forest issue, if it hadn't been hijacked by politicians, we had a great plan for it. I'm still the one who initiated it, the conservation of our major forest catchment areas. I was felt within a very short time, the profile of environment in Kenya went high. I'm the one who initiated the process of developing a national climate change strategy for Kenya. And then within a very short time, of course, I was moved to the Ministry of Medical Services.
Yes.
While there, I did three major things. Number one, I brought back life into the ministry. Staff felt now again that they could give their best, because I tried to create a sense of everybody is important. We want everybody. And I used to visit hospitals. I used to talk to all kinds of staff, nurses, doctors, and meet their unions.
Okay.
Number two, I brought about reforms in hospitals. I brought about development and expansion, major expansion in infrastructure. And I also streamlined procurement in the ministry. And then, of course, in education, many more.
Yes.
So what makes me ideal? One time, the American media asked Henry Kissinger, you've been with American presidents. What is it that you need to have to go to the White House? That is in America, the American State House. And Henry Kissinger looked at the media and told them, the only thing, I've looked at all these guys, there are only two important things that you must consider in electing a president. One, that the person has character or integrity. And two, that the person is intelligent enough to be able to make decisions. You know,
and you believe you are that sort of person?
I can say that in addition to those two basic, criteria, I also believe that I have a track record, and an honest one, because I have served in the public service all my life, by the way, from the time I was a lecturer to where I am now. I've just been serving. Okay,
all right. Let's talk about your choice of running mate, Winnie Kaburu Kinywa, who will be joining us shortly, and we'll get to hear from her in just a moment. How did you arrive at the decision to pick Winnie?
For me, as I said when I was, naming her, number one, I was looking for competence, somebody who is qualified according to the Constitution, according to the law, somebody who has integrity, the same thing that I'm very, very, very passionate about, because Kenya has suffered because of leaders who have no integrity. I was also looking at somebody who has a passion for people, somebody who has a heart, somebody who cries for others. And I wanted to, very much so, I really, really prayed to look for a woman, because I believe it is time that women took the most, the highest places of service in this country. That we do not just talk about women and women, and yet when it comes now to, positions that they are behind. So for me, I wanted a woman because we need a voice for women, we need a voice for children, and I just believed it will balance my ticket. So I was extremely happy. And I was very deliberate about that. Okay.
What do you think of the political landscape in this country? There's many people, even as we have the question of the day today, and on Twitter and on our SMS feed as well, who say, well, you know what, Kiyapi has what it takes, but he doesn't have the votes. You are perceived as a candidate that doesn't have the political heavyweights, as we seem to term the others. So some say you have... Yes, it is not true. Fine.
Yvonne, it is not true. I don't have votes. Let me tell you. Nobody would just run around when really you have no basis. I have moved across this country, and there are so many millions of Kenyans, not thousands, millions, of silent voters who right now are even voting for me. And if they would tell you, they will say, my vote will go to that man. I have a lot of support in this country. And the support is not based on, people just like me because I talk well. No, it is really, really, really based on substance and knowledge of what Kenyans want. Kenyans are looking for change. Kenyans are looking for fresh leaders. Kenyans are looking for people they can trust. And when they keep telling you that I don't have vote, who has the votes? The polls that have been released recently, right. First of all, even in developed countries like America or UK, where this polling system is much more developed, it is still very difficult to do a very nice, credible poll. In Kenya, there is nobody who has done a research, good research, and come up with a methodology to capture the fact that Kenyans vote on tribal basis, to capture the fact that Kenyans vote out of fear, to capture the fact that Kenyans vote sometimes because of euphoria, and all of these factors. And if you look at what InfoTrack did, it was a total lie. It doesn't make sense. The numbers are not adding up. Let me give you an example. Number one, Kenyans are saying we want change. We are tired. We want new leaders. How is it that all the people who are talking about change and reform are the ones doing so badly, and the people that Kenyans are saying we are tired of are the ones on top? Number two, how is it that you do a poll today and somebody is at around 30%, and then the next poll, the person just jumps to 51%? Number three, I got 0.1%. Right. Which means that if all the 14 million Kenyans have voted, which is of course unlikely, that the person is saying that nationally, out of Kenya, all the teachers, all the youth, all the professionals, including everybody that I know, will only give me 14,000. How would you believe that? We don't want that Kenya. We don't want a Kenya where people lie and manipulate and frame up things so that they show others as failing and others as winning. Okay, but that being said, excuse me, politics is a matter of perception. When we take a look at, and like you said, who creates perception? Sometimes, let me finish. When you take a look at some of the political rallies that you see, and there's masses and masses and hundreds of thousands of people. And granted, these people aren't all registered voters, and if they are, they might not necessarily go to the polls to even vote for that particular candidate. But do you believe, and like you've said, there's a lot of Kenyans in this country who vote on the basis of euphoria, of fear, and of doing that. Now, knowing this, and knowing all these candidates, how do you position yourself and your candidature when it comes to that? It is deception. It is deception which RBK, which I resist. Because if you go to Tononoka, and I'm a presidential candidate, and I can use money, I can fill that field. And the following day, if another presidential candidate goes to the same place, the same very crowd that was there yesterday will be there. The third day, if another one goes there, the same very crowd will be there. Will they necessarily vote for all the three people? Of course it is impossible. Right. They can only vote for one. Right. Now the major problem we have is that Kenyan politicians have learned a long time ago that the electorate in Kenya are not sophisticated. Just go and accumulate money, and you must ask them how they get these billions. When somebody says that they can use 10 billions to run a campaign, why is it that Kenyans are not asking? And every time we have scandals coming out, and nobody even wants to know what happened. Good, which is great. Let's talk about the funding for a moment, because you've talked about this, and you've said before that you hoped in the beginning to raise 1 billion shillings, and you said if 1 million people contributed 1,000 shillings each, that would amount to 1 billion shillings. So let's ask you now, who's funding your campaign, and where are you getting the funds for all the travels you're doing around the country? Well, first of all, we are not using that kind of money that the others are using. That's why we are not pulling those huge crowds. Okay, that's number one. Right. So, but whatever little we get, or whatever little we are getting it from you. We're getting it from Kenyans. Somebody who sends 10,000, somebody who sends 20,000. Sometimes I get good friends who give me like 100,000 or even $500,000. So, are you saying your campaign is fully donated by your supporters? 100%. Okay. 100%. Including very little savings that I had. It's a total sacrifice. But I don't believe that I have to marshal billions to become your president.
Okay, fine.
You've got to trust me and give me your vote, not because I've given you some inducement.
Okay. You've mentioned the fact that you know, some people are saying they're using billions of shillings, and we need to question that. Yesterday, Martha Karua declared her wealth and urged all other presidential candidates to do the same. Is this something we will see you doing?
Can I do it now?
Yes,
well,
please.
I can mention it.
Please.
And I can mention it, and we can get an auditor to go and check.
Right.
I have one house in Eldoret.
Okay.
So I don't know how much it's worth. I built it at a cost of about 6 to 8 million, so I think it has gone up a bit.
Right.
Then I have about 15 to 20 acres, which my father gave me, and I've built a house on it, which is basically inherited property. And then I have bought a plot which I have not concluded, again at home. So I can't say I have it because I don't have the paper. Then I have an acre plot in Karen, and then I have 2 vehicles, and that's all between Kiyapi and property.
Okay, all right.
And anybody can go and verify that.
Okay.
That's really basically it. And I'm very happy that way. I consider I'm a rich man, but rich not because I have a lot of billions in the bank. Rich because my heart is rich.
Okay, all right. Let's bring in your running mate now.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Karibu sana.
Morning.
Thank you
Sorry,
for
I was
making
a bit late.
So
No,
Yvonne, I
that's
hope
fine.
that now this is on public record.
It is on public record.
Nobody needs to ask me, can Kiyapi declare his wealth? I've already declared. That's all that there is.
All right, okay. Yes, of course
Little
you have
close.
it. That's that's a first. We've had James Ole Kiyapi, who's a presidential candidate on an RBK ticket, formally declaring his wealth right here on Sunrise Live. Keep your comments and your questions coming in on Twitter and on SMS. That number is 8040 as well. And we're now also joined by his running mate on an RBK party ticket, Winnie Kaburu Kinywa. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's talk about when you were unveiled as Kiyapi's running mate. There was a lot that was going on social media, and everybody saying, oh, the little known Winnie Kaburu Kinywa, not known perhaps in politics as someone who's been around. Tell us about what you bring to the table and the candidature that you have with Kiyapi and the vision for this country.
Oh, thank you. I also got surprised to hear about the little known. I don't know in which circles, but I was delighted. I was very happy. First, because the women were recognized, and I'm a woman, and I'm a worker. I'm a businesswoman. And when I realized that politics can just also join with the business, I realized that really we are going somewhere in Kenya. So the one kind of Kenya and Africa came to a standstill because nobody expected that to happen. So it was really great. But being little known, I think that is the perception of people, because I've worked in this country, in business, in so many organizations, both women and youth organizations. So little known in politics, I've campaigned for quite big people in this country. So little known, I think that was understatement.
Okay.
But actually it's good because they came to know who really Winnie is.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about women, and of course this is an attempt at gender balance, obviously. What plans would you have, should you carry the day March 4th, for women in this country and for gender balance? And perhaps we can start with your view on the gender role that we now know will not happen in this country. What do you think about the role of women in politics?
I think the role of women in politics is undermined in this country. And I think that it's high time the women of Kenya especially start looking at politics as part of any other business they do in life, any other work they do. And also the girl child who we have really been trying to put up will be enlightened and happy to realize that she can be anything in this world. Not necessarily a doctor, a teacher. She can also become a vice president, a deputy president, a president. So really, the role of a woman in the country, in this country, should be more emphasized more than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
As deputy president in this country, should that be the case, what would be the tangible actions that we would see, say, in the first year of your administration? Perhaps not just for women, but what would be your focus in the first year of your administration should you win?
It's not when should I win, when I win.
Okay.
Because like winning, we are winning.
Right.
That one we are so sure of. I want to focus especially on employment of the youth, because I feel that the youth are left out so much. So we educate our children and tell them that they can become anything. But after education, there is nowhere to go. We tell them go back to the village or go back and do kazi ya vijana, which kazi ya vijana is more manual than academic. So I want to create more industries. We want to create more industries to be able to put the youth there. We want to create also more industries to be able to help people have more workplaces. Secondly, I want to also focus on women and girl child for that matter, because women are the base, the backbone of the economy, of this economy. Because our economy is based on SMEs, small and medium enterprises, which I'm at home with, because business is what I do best.
Okay. All right.
And I believe also business and politics go together. You can't have good business without good politics. I remember there's a saying which the former president used to say, maisha mbaya, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. Yes. So without money, without good business in the country, there's nothing where you can go. We are talking of a lot of money being poured now. Where are these people getting the money? Might be business people are funding them. Because business, if it's not good, also the politics can't be good. Okay. That's why everybody wants money. All so right. I will focus on putting the business up there, focusing on women, helping them, like the Constitution. We have been talking a lot about the Constitution. How comes there are no women? The Constitution, the two-thirds has not been realized in this Constitution. How do you implement a Constitution whereby you remove some part and say the other part is good, and say you are implementing that Constitution? The first thing which really made me happy when the board of RBK appointed me is because I realized this time around, I am able to say to the government, we need the Constitution to be implemented, especially the Constitution where the women are concerned. Right, so the two-thirds gender rule, is that something you would be actively seeking to make sure is implemented? 100%, okay. 100%, because there are so many women in this country who are educated, who are able to fill all the places, but it looks like there are no women. Where are the women? We are educated, we have got businesses, we are proved beyond anything else that we are capable. Okay.
There's no, you know what he's saying is that there's no level playing field in this country.
Yes, there isn't.
There is everything is all kinds of barriers and have been put against women. That's why you have to fight to break some of these in order for them to go forward. It's the same thing that's happening now with, in the political field. You people, you see a few people who have billions to overrun the country, and then you come now and ask us, oh, these are the heavyweights and you are lightweights. On what basis? Bring them here for a debate. Let them interrogate the character of the individual. I want to be told that that person is actually more superior because of ideas they have, not because they have more money. Okay, well, we'll talk about that. There's people that say this country is not ready for your type of politics, where you're challenging people on the basis of ideas. Which politics is it ready for?
Are we ready for politics or
personality politics, perhaps?
Oh,
do you think your time will be 2017?
Let me tell you, let us not underestimate the intelligence of Kenyans. Kenyans have been crying since the 90s for change, and they have been yearning for it. Were you born when we did the 2002 thing, NAC? Kenyans were looking for something, and they have still not found it. And then we keep saying that, oh, Kenyans just don't want change, they want to remain. We are in the 21st century, for goodness sake. We want to be like America or better. We just want to be like the rest of the world. We want to run. Okay. And therefore, Kenyans are ready. We cannot lower the standards of leadership in Kenya because Kenyans are not ready. If they are not ready, then we want to pull them up to be ready. Right, all right.
We're also fielding some questions that are coming in via Twitter. Ruben Koske, thank you for your tweet. You say, James Ole Kiyapi needs to expound on taxation and devolution. So let's talk about that. This is a historic election. A lot is going to change after March the 4th. We will have central government now being devolved to the various regions of this country. What would your plan be to work with that?
I think for me, the most critical thing is right now to help the county governments to develop structures. And that's not going to happen like on day 1 or day 2. It will probably take the next 5 years to develop those institutions of governance down at the local level. Remember that we have local authorities even right now. And that was actually, even at independence time, that was an attempt to try and devolve or decentralize. Now, we have gone ahead and given them power in the constitution that we can actually run government down there. So the first priority is let us establish the structures, and number two, clear linkages and separation of power and duties. Let us really bring the constitution to reality. Before you talk about taxes, first of all, use what you have efficiently, allocate it properly, let the system run, because even if you increase taxes or reduce taxes and you have no system, you still have a problem. So for me, taxes is a much, much later issue, whether you actually need to increase taxes or tax more. And in Kenya, the Kenyans are overtaxed. What we really need in Kenya today is, one, to broaden the tax bracket, bring more people into taxation, but also, number two, manage more prudently, manage more efficiently the resources we have. It's not that we have to have more, it's that we manage what we have better. And this is where the problem is. So I think, personally, I would like to see a better relationship between the national government and county government, but well-defined structures and clear lines of authority and interactions. And once that is done, then we can go to the next level of saying, how do we create the basket of goods and services? How do we increase the money?
Right. You've recently talked about food security being a major issue in this country. Tell us about your plans for making sure that every Kenyan has a decent meal on his plate every single day.
I have three major strategies. Strategy number one will be focusing on production. And under production, you have to look at the environment aspects, the environment sustainability of agriculture. You have to look at irrigation system and using rainwater, all this fresh water that we get every year and we lose into the ocean. We need to develop systems of harvesting rainwater so that we increase land under irrigated agriculture. We can no longer rely on what we call rain-fed agriculture because of climate change. We must give farmers farm inputs like seed and fertilizer on time. We must improve the practices on the farm so that within the same 1 acre of land, the farmer can produce more. And then we must also make sure we enhance extension work. That is production. Then the second strategy will focus on storage, distribution, so that you must make sure that one part of the country is producing this kind of food, it can reach all parts of Kenya. It is not necessary that every corner of Kenya is producing maize. You can actually diversify. You can produce different crops in different parts of Kenya, depending on the rainfall patterns, depending on the ecology of the land and soil productivity. You need to do that. And then lastly, you must look at the issue of value addition. Research. We must move in very strongly and make sure that we really look at research, because all these climatic changes are going to create problems that are currently not an issue. And we need to go ahead in terms of research, innovation, value addition, processing, what we call agri-processing. That is one of the things you were talking about, agri-industries. So for me, if you do all of this, and also increase what we call social security. Social security means just broaden the overall economy so that people have money in their pocket. When you have money in your pocket, even if you are not growing maize, like today, not all of us have champers at home, but because I have money, I can buy food. So you have to look at the poverty levels, and then you have to look at the production aspects, so that there's enough food to buy, but there's also money to purchase it if you are not actually growing it.
I think what happens in agriculture in Kenya is that the people focus on just production. After production, nobody cares what happens to that food. So storage is banned. We lose a lot of food because, for example, if there's a lot of maize in Kitale, you come back to Kambani, there is nothing because I was not in that time. You realize that food, that maize gets spoiled. So the storage is a big problem in this country. And the Kenyan being agriculture backbone, it really is terrible because we should be able to store that food. We should be able to process it. We should be able to connect those who have this and those who don't have that. In simple terms, we should be able to connect the whole country with who has and who doesn't have.
It's a supply chain.
It's a supply chain, which is not well taken care of.
Understood. And we'd asked you, Winnie, about what you would be able to do, what you would be able to effect. James, what would be the things we would get to see? You know, during the last election, we had a lot of promises. In the first 100 days, we'll have a constitution. In the first 100 days, we'll have created so many jobs for youth. Let's take a look at 1 year of James Ole Kiyapi in State House, and let's see how we will be at this time next year, for example, or in March next year, let's say.
Before I answer that question, I want to tell you the key pillars of my manifesto, like in 1 minute. We will focus on that food security thing. Let's make sure food is available and quality and for everybody. Number 2, we want to focus on healthcare. And I promise that in healthcare, we would like every county. And when I say, you know, I'm always saying national government working in conjunction with county government. I would like every county to have a referral type facility, well equipped, and well-staffed, well-established with everything, complete, including even having what we call like cancer testing units, and then including having what we call emergency management and trauma units. We need to have that in every region, in every county. So healthcare is number 2, and then number 3, education. For education, I've promised that every child will exit primary school and go to secondary. And I've also promised that we will diversify courses beyond secondary so that if you are not good in academics, you can pursue anything else, entertainment, sports, arts, and music. Let us harness the talents of our children. Let us not condemn them that if you are not good in physics, then you are good for nothing. No, let's say you're not good in physics, what are you good at? I'm very good in sports. Let's help you develop the sports. And I would like to put more money in the universities to expand the facilities, but also give research, because Kenya is not doing research. And you are not going to industrialize, you are not going to transform the economy if your innovation bit or the higher education level is not leading in terms of research and innovation. And then of course, the 4th pillar is economy, which we have been talking about, you know, just how to increase wealth. And then the last one, because there are 5, is security and unity of the country. Now, the first year of Ole Kiyapi, actually the first 90 days, I will establish a ministry, of course, of youth, a department of youth under the office of the president. Maybe ask this lady to supervise it. And come up with a clear program that focuses on what we can do right now to bring immediate relief to the young people, and then what we can do in terms of long-term, in terms of education and skills, and in terms of expanding the economy to create opportunities.
All right, but James, that already exists now.
No,
we have the ministry. We do.
No, it's not just a ministry as such.
Yes.
It is, first of all, that I said I will declare youth unemployment a national disaster. Okay, fine. Like we did in HIV/AIDS.
Great. If you do what will we do once we declare that a national disaster? What steps do we then take?
Number 1.
Say, because it's all well and good to say we will create more jobs for the youth, but how will we do that?
I'm telling you what we are going to do.
Okay.
Number 1, let us look at the whole economy, private sector and government. Let's look at positions of internship. Okay, for college students who are coming, these are temporary things. Number 2, let's look at construction, all kinds of construction, roads, housing, let's create jobs there. Number 3, let's look at the environment sector, cleaning up, planting trees, let's create jobs there. Number 4, let's look at tourism. It's a low-hanging fruit. Let's reform the tourism very quickly and try to make sure we put a lot of use there.
Okay.
And then let's create short-term contracts. Let us also negotiate with governments in the region. Like, for example, the other day, Sudan government wanted, teachers in Kenya. Rwanda's government wanted teachers in Kenya. So let's look at all these opportunities. These are the short measures.
All right.
Now, the long-term ones.
Allow me to interrupt for just a moment. We had the Kazi kwa Vijana scheme, was heavily criticized. What were your thoughts on that? that in terms of creating employment for the youth? We've also had the Youth Fund that was aimed at encouraging youth to be more entrepreneurial in their spirit rather than seeking employment. Are these things that you would like to continue, or do you think they were flawed? How would you be able to change that?
You will put that in a context of a serious program. The problem was that we didn't have a program. It was just projects.
So they were all right? Kazi kwa vijana was fine?
They were good ideas, but they were not properly executed in a program sense.
In what way exactly?
What I mean by a program is that a program is a whole logic of, what you want to do, how you're going to measure it, how you're going to supervise it, who is overseeing it, making sure. For example, many young people did not know, where do I go? Where do I go to know what is going on? If you go, for example, and open a youth office in every county, and you put it on national radio, national TV, and say, if you're a young person, whether you finish college, whether you finished 10 years ago, go to this office. When they go there, then they'll get all these options.
Okay.
So some of them had no idea what was going on.
Okay, so Kazi kwa vijana was a good scheme in your opinion, but just poorly executed?
I'm just saying that it was a good idea, not a scheme. I said it was a good idea because it was an attempt.
So why wasn't it so successful?
Sort out the problem.
Why wasn't it so successful, do you think?
It was not well implemented.
It was not well implemented, but it was a good idea?
Any idea is a good idea.
I think it's a good idea.
Right.
Only that it was taken as a short term.
Okay.
After that, it was not developed to be a long term.
We want it to be long term.
Yeah. So if it's long term, then it's good, because you don't want these small businesses and then they die within no time. These are young people. They need a life. And they can't have life on that.
Okay, all right. So it's that, and you're just talking about that, and then just saying that it should have been more long-term.
And monitored, and having somebody to... You actually mainstream it. It's just like Vision 2030. It's a great blueprint. But the problem right now is that if I ask you, and I ask many Kenyans at home, what is Vision 20? They don't know. But there's a lot going on. What you need to do is to bring it out by giving people what we call periodic reports of what you wanted to do and how much you've done, how much more needs to be done.
Right, all right. I would like to be able to field as many questions as we possibly can from our viewers, because this is their platform to be able to speak to you and talk about that. I know you've talked about a couple of pillars that are very important. You've mentioned food security, youth and employment. Security is also a big issue in this country at the moment. The scandals in the police service notwithstanding. But we have a question here from Ngatu in Mombasa. He says, tell us about the outlawed groups like MRC, Mungiki, Chinkororo, and others. What would be your plan in tackling security? Tana Delta is undergoing the crisis that it is at the moment. We have Isli that, had been subjected to literally periodic cases of terrorism in this country, being something very, very major, even as we go into an election. What were your thoughts on MRC, Mungiki, and the security situation as a whole?
First of all, let's look at the whole country. And when you look at the whole country, look at all the Kenyans. And there are Kenyans who are grouping up, and they are mushrooming every day. And the reason they are doing that is because they are protesting something. And what is that something that Kenyans are protesting? I think one of the things we need to do is, first of all, to preempt. Do not allow Kenyans to get so frustrated until they think that they have to sort out their problem of security because the government was not there. That, for me, is unacceptable. And one of the reasons why we have all this is because the young people are frustrated everywhere. There are no jobs. They don't feel anybody is listening to them. Nobody is giving them an ear. I would like, as a government, for example, to bring people to the table to say, what are the issues that they are bringing? What is the grievance? And if it is something that the government must address, then the government must address.
And how
but if people simply want to, if there are political, for example, issues or other people from outside using our young people, then that's unacceptable.
Okay.
But you must also treat it as such. First, understand what the problem is.
Do you think we've been able to do that? For example, in the Tana Delta, what would your instructions be today to the Inspector General of the Police Service? What would you be saying to David Ole Kiyapi? You would call him into State House and you would say, go and do what in Tana?
I will tell not even the police, the Inspector General, because you see, you're already bringing in the idea of policing. Insecurity is not because the police are not necessarily working. Insecurity is because you don't even understand what is going on. the first thing you would do is to summon the minister in charge and tell him, go to Tunnel Delta, and I don't care how long you have to be there. Sit there, meet the local leaders, meet everybody, listen to what is going on. And of course, you must deploy the security agents to control the situation. So, but beyond controlling the situation, go to the underlying issues. People are not fighting for nothing. They're fighting either because they are fighting over resources, they're fighting because they are struggling, they are competing for power. There is something that is triggering.
And so
it.
the solution to that would be?
The solution to that is that get to the underlying issues and address the issues.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's have another one. And this is from...
We don't do just firefighting.
Okay.
Like put off the fire, then you go
Okay.
and you leave the thing simmering.
All
Then
right.
italipuka tena.
Okay, all right. We can address this to either you or your running mate. Bernard Imboko from Bungoma says, we only see this aspirant on television, but in some places like Western, we haven't seen him. Have you been to Bungoma? He's asking where your agents or where your offices are in Bungoma, for example. What's the reach of RBK around the country?
I was in Teso. I was in Bungoma, Mount Elgon side. I haven't reached everywhere, but I was in Mount Elgon side about a month ago, and I was in Teso about 3 weeks ago. I think it is true. A lot of our supporters are frustrated because they would like us to reach Kenya or to go to their areas because they want to listen to us. But unfortunately, it is a huge outlay of resources. If you Kenyans can give us a lot of donate more, we will go to every corner. But we will use whatever we have to go and share the vision.
So are you saying then that you're not able to go to all the regions in the country because you're limited in terms of resources?
I'm saying that resources is always a constraint.
You know, the thing here is, in Kenya, my point, to speak about women, especially aspirants, right now, the problem is we have got very great women down there. Just like we have great people like Ole Kiyapi wanting to be the president of this country. They are great, but they don't have mouthpieces. If you have to come to a station like this, you have to come all the way to Nairobi for everybody in the country to see you. If it is to advertise in the paper, you have to own that paper, or have people to own that paper. So going all over the 47 constituencies is not easy. Counties.
Right.
But we have done almost, I think, 3/4 of that.
Okay.
And in the next 1 month or so, we'll be able to cover all of them.
Okay, so if some people chose to use this argument against you, how would you defend yourself that you don't have enough resources to travel the country and therefore take your message to the people?
Because you don't have enough money, you are not a good leader. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean the people who go to school, to go to the schools.
Right.
Reverse the argument.
So really, let's reverse the argument this way.
That
there's a lot of people.
What you are saying then, if you ask that question, you are simply saying that if you don't have 10 billions, you will never be a leader in Kenya.
Not necessarily.
And that will be most unfortunate.
No, my question was, if you do not have enough resources to be able to travel to all parts of the country and speak to the people...
But all parts of the country know we are here, and they hear us.
Not necessarily so,
yeah.
because let's put it this way, the number of people who have access to television sets in this country is still very low.
Very low.
We do know
Actually,
we're not
very
speaking
low.
to
Yes.
the 40 million people in this country. Now, the question I'm asking is not whether you have enough money to be president. One moment, is whether you have enough money to travel to the far-flung areas of this country and talk to the people one-on-one and say, look, what are your problems? That's the question I'm asking.
Let me tell you, since April of last year, I've been traveling all over Kenya. It is only last week that I started getting some good profile in the media. I complain, and it's because I complain. If you had been covering me, I have gone to so many places, but you never really show it. So many times.
Okay, but regardless of whether the media shows it or not, if the people on the ground feel that...
Yvonne, that's what I want to tell you.
Okay.
Look here, the media might not have answered Ole Kiyapi, but we have got women groups, we have youth groups. His voice and his manifesto is heard up to the grassroots.
Fine. And that is what the viewer in Bungoma wants to know.
Anyway. It's for them to know
why
are we voting RBK.
Wait for March and see how many Kenyans will vote from all over the counties. By the way, I'm the only presidential candidate honestly, who has national acceptability. I can go to any county and
you go to the ground, you get
our PS,
surprised.
Karibu sana. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of, but the media, whenever I have that euphoric following, every time I go, like, let me give you two examples. Right. I was in Teso, and crowds on the roads everywhere, coming to meet me and greet me and say, talk to us. And we gave the media the clips, and nobody shot it. Even in my own district of Narok, I had the biggest rally ever held in Kilgoris. Nobody saw it. So we will keep going, we'll keep fighting, we'll keep explaining ourselves, but Kenyan people have to own their country. It is not that, you know, I have to fight to be heard. Kenyans must also fight to defend their country. And we all must do it.
All right. So are you pleased with the media coverage you're receiving now?
Yes.
Following your complaint?
Yes. Go on like this. Go on like this. If you go on like this, I can assure you, I can guarantee that if
at least let every Kenyan
hear us.
Hear us.
Okay.
And hear everybody else. Then they have a choice.
All right.
Because if you don't give that choice, how do you say the leader they choose is the right leader?
All right. Let's have another very quick one. Charity begins at home. Can the professor tell us the community development he initiated in his constituency or home area when he was PS? That is George Obendo asking.
You know, let me tell you, I was a permanent secretary of education, a permanent secretary of environment, and let me tell you, I allocated national resources on an equitable basis across the country. As a PS, I was not an MP of Kilgoris constituency. Okay. So I was not allowed by the law to decide that now Kilgoris must get preference. But if he's asking whether I have sacrificed my personal resources for people, right, let him know that I started an education initiative even before I became a PS a long time ago. Yeah. In the areas where I was helping to give books and I was helping to pay for fees of children. Even right now, I have about 5 children that I'm paying fees for, including one in the university, who are not my children, just from my own personal resources. Okay, all right. Yeah, but as a government official, I gave Transmara what they deserved, as I did other districts. All right, okay.
Let's have another question here. It's still going back to the opinion polls. Obviously, this is something you cannot get away from. It says, Prof is not sincere on the polls. Does it mean that a pollster is only fair when you're leading? Because this is something, Cord, Jubilee have not, well, let's put it this way.
Let me just explain this
okay. Does it mean that it is not fair when you are not leading? And being a scientist yourself, some say surely you must understand the scientific way in which polls are conducted. Yes. They cannot speak to all the Kenyans, otherwise that would be an election, which is what we're going for in March 4th. Okay, let me so explain. Are you upset because you're not leading with the polls?
Let me explain it very nicely, and I teach statistics. Right. What is polling? It is sampling. What is sampling? Sampling is measuring a small bit to represent the whole.
The larger one, yes.
If you talk to all the Kenyans, that was the most accurate. But because you cannot, because it's too expensive and time consuming, you pick a small sample of maybe 1,000 something, but that sample must be representative. It means that I must make conclusions from that sample as though I had measured the whole, okay? So let us now check what they have done against reality. Okay. What that means is that if you say Ole Kiyapi got 0.1%, what you're actually saying is that if all the 14 million Kenyans voted today, I only managed to get nationally 14,000 votes. Which means that even my own constituency of Kilgoris that has 100,000 votes, they couldn't even give me better than that. No, hold on.
Okay.
Please don't interrupt.
Right, okay,
I'm trying to explain to you that it doesn't, you cannot say that, well, you got this because, you're unpopular here or you're unpopular there. No. Scientific polling means that if you repeated that process, if somebody else repeated that process, they would almost come to the same conclusion. And if you went to the reality on the ground to check, if you went and took another small sample to real check, you should be able to arrive again. It is called tested. You must test the instrument.
All right, you must allow me to interject at this moment. So you're saying 0.1% isn't fair because you can't possibly garner 14,000 votes?
No, I'm saying this. I'm saying that it is not true. There is no measurement taken.
So
and I also said...
You are discrediting what InfoTrack Harris has done.
Yes,
I think...
I'm saying,
okay.
I'm saying there was actually no scientific poll in Kenya ever conducted. And if there is, I have asked people, why don't we ask a professor, a lecturer or somebody, a group of experts, independent, okay? And we sit down with all the presidential candidates, and then we all agree on the methodology. And then they go and draw the samples. They analyze, and they come here on national TV and explain what they found out. Yvonne, how is it that you have 30% today, and then the next poll you jump 20 percentage points?
So it is not entirely possible?
It is impossible.
Okay.
It doesn't happen in life.
So if you were to be the one that would conduct these polls, it would not be 0.1%, obviously. What percentage would it be?
Let me tell you something. Right now, the best candidate in Kenya, if there is a best candidate, and it need not to be Ole Kiyapi, is not beyond 25%. That is about 3 million votes.
And that is scientific, Professor?
No, scientific.
Are you willing to back that up with...
It is not scientific.
Right.
It's based on my best understanding of regional and tribal politics in Kenya, and we can sit down and you can analyze it.
Okay, but
it's
that's
not scientific.
Well, that's subjective, is it not? Because you say it's based on your own understanding.
No, listen. When you call the analysts to come to your station and ask them a question, what is it based on? It's based on their expert knowledge. I'm talking to you now, not even as a presidential candidate. I'm telling you based on my expert knowledge that right now many Kenyans have not even decided who to vote for. Is that not true? They don't even know their candidates yet because there are no candidates yet. We are just aspirants. Now, candidates only become so when IEBC declares us candidates. So when you say that people have already decided it is so-and-so who's going to win, you are being mean with the truth.
Okay, let me allow you to weigh in on this because I really saw you having something to say about opinion polling and what your opinion is.
Yeah, my opinion is the opinion polls we are getting right now is all politicking. And if you ask any one of these candidates to tell you the truth, they know it's not the truth. And that's what happens in propaganda. You make people believe what is not the truth. So is it
RBK's belief then that this poll was
it's
not conducted?
It's not only RBK.
Okay,
if you look at all
that is fine, but
they
we're
are all
speaking,
saying the same
we're
thing,
speaking
except
to RBK
only
today.
one.
Okay,
So
we're speaking to RBK today.
Yes.
So is it RBK's position that InfoTrack Harris did not conduct this particular poll scientifically?
We don't believe that.
That is your position?
Yes.
Okay.
And I insisted, and I won, and in fact, I wish they can just put the methodology out there. Let them publish it in the papers. And then I will tell you 1, 2, 3 reasons why it is not correct.
Okay. Yes. Could you expound on, just give us one reason, even as we come to the close? What do you think is most unscientific about it?
Let me explain to you. When you do sampling, if the population is homogeneous, homogeneous is almost like the same, like Nairobi, you can actually draw a sample. But even in Nairobi, the population is not homogeneous. Like Nairobi, you probably have to divide it into 2 or 3 layers. You have to look at who lives in sort of middle income and upper income and lower income. But within that, you also have to look at which tribe you belong to, because that's the reason Kenyans vote. They vote because they belong to this tribe and so forth. Now, if you go to Narok today, let me give you an example. If you go to Narok town, and it is a very cosmopolitan town, and you went and drew a sample of 200 people, you talk to 200 people, that's the sample, and you say that's Narok County. Whom did you actually talk to in Narok County? Did you talk to the Kikuyus who are in Narok? Or did you talk to the Maasais who are in Narok? Or did you talk to the Kisis who are in Narok?
Okay.
No, I'm just trying to help you.
Yes, I understand that.
You understand?
Right.
But if you went deep inside and you talked to, and you drew a sample of 200 people, and they are 100% Maasais, then they all say Kiyapi, 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 Kiyapi. Is that necessarily a representation of Narok County? No. So if you went to Narok town and you happen to just talk to the town dwellers, and you get a predominance of, let's say, Kisi, Maasai, and Kikuyus, and each one of them gave you their different answers, would you? So you have to understand whom you're talking to. Kenya is so heterogeneous, or so mixed, so mixed.
Okay, we don't have time. And it is your belief that InfoTrack Harris does not know who they're speaking to when they conduct their polls? Or does not,
well, no, what I am saying,
does not get a representative sample?
Is that they are not, the Infotrack and any other polling agency need to be accountable, because their numbers are shifting so quickly and so fast. And somebody even mentioned another time, and I want you to listen carefully. Every time these polls comes out, the next day some politicians, the so-called winning ones, go and say, can you see we are winning on the first round?
Okay.
And I want Infotrack to call all of us, and we shall send our experts to go and look at their methodology. And I've asked them before, what is so hard about them attaching an expert from every group to go and collect the data?
Okay, all right. We have to leave it at that for now. We thank you both for your time. We thank you for sharing your policies with us. Obviously, so many questions we possibly cannot field, many of them. We have viewers watching all the way in the United States as well. We would like to be able to, of course, do this again. And so hopefully when we call you in again, you will be available. I know, yes, it's a busy time, but we will definitely
in the end,
like
Yvonne,
to do
I
that.
just want to say one word.
Yes.
Kenyans, this is our country. And it is really not about Winnie and Ole Kiyapi or any other person for that matter. It's about each one of you. It's about each one of us.
Okay.
Let's go out there with a good heart, with a good spirit, and decide who our leaders are.
Absolutely.
And when you make that decision as Kenyans, we will all be bound by that decision.
Absolutely. Okay. All
Also
right. That's
to-
a good way to end it. I'm sorry. We're sort of running out of time. We've overrun actually into our next hour. But we have been speaking with Winnie Kaburu Kinywa and Professor James Ole Kiyapi, both from the Restore and Build Kenya Party. And they have been outlining their plan for the country. Thank you for your feedback. A minute after 8 o'clock now, we take a quick break. We'll be right back. Boniface Mangi will be joining us. Don't go away.